I just could not handle the stress and the pressure, and I started getting intestinal bleeding, which was quite severe. I'm Tristan Pierce. I'm 44 years old. I currently do extra film work in the film industry, and I'm also in the process of establishing an NPO, facilitating a variety of services. That is in effect what I'm going to be doing for a living. The NPO and its business initiatives will be keeping me quite busy. In short, I've had a very interesting upbringing, to say the least. I've experienced a lot of trauma since I was a very young boy. That continued straight through my teens, and because of the stuff that's happened in my youth and my teens, that has had a very negative effect on me relating to other people in my early adult life. Only due to the fact that I've undergone quite extensive therapy and have received help for the trauma that I've experienced, have I been able to come to a place of acceptance and peace that these things have indeed happened. There was nothing that I could do to change what's happened, but that I do have a say in what happens to me from this point. And I think that has really changed my life from my early adulthood up to the point where I'm sitting here in front of you today. Up until the point that lockdown hit, I found accommodation in a homeless shelter in Retreat. It was the only place that I could find to safely stay at that point, with keeping in mind that I didn't have a big income. I did have an opportunity in the film industry as being a film extra, but seeing as the payments only come through about every 3 months, it really places you in a position where you have to ask for help. And unfortunately, not much help was available to me. So I found myself in the shelter, actively working, but awaiting payment. And then a day before lockdown got announced, I got a message from my agent saying that all filming has been stopped and that we have no idea what lies ahead. Seeing as I was in the shelter environment, they called for a very hard lockdown, which meant that myself and 75 of the other residents was not allowed in or out of the shelter at any given time. And this was the case for approximately 3 months of the lockdown. So we were in each other's company day in and day out, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 3 months straight. This has had a very severe effect on myself and the other residents. Because of this, it's created a lot of trauma for myself and some of the other residents, seeing as being in such a closed environment with so many people at any given time was not natural for us. It was not in our frame of reference. So the fact was that we had absolutely no rest. The people got rather upset. They got aggressive. Some of them ended going into serious depression, which all had negative effects on the people staying in the shelter. And whilst staying in the shelter under these severe conditions, my body started acting up. I just could not handle the stress and the pressure, and I started getting intestinal bleeding, which was quite severe. But unfortunately, we weren't allowed out to go to the hospital until the end of the 3 months. So I had to cope with that in the middle of the situation that we found ourselves in, and I started losing so much weight. I really thought I was going to lose my mind. In effect, before I could make any decision, a decision was made for me by the shelter, and they decided to evict both me and 20 other residents amidst the pandemic back onto the streets. So E-News then found out about what's happened. They saw the human interest in the story, they covered it, and because they covered it, the Shelter then decided to shut down all their media platforms. Because of having been evicted amidst the pandemic with no income, no work, no hope, I reached out to everybody I knew, and they reached out to everybody they knew without much effect. And when I got to the place where I thought that I was going to have a total nervous breakdown, I experienced that I could reach out to a friend in the film industry called Kim Lever, which I then did. And it's only because of Kim's willingness to say, yes, I'll see how I can help you, that things have started to change around for me from that point forward. And that's what brought the major change in my life. Kim, in having reached out on social media platforms, in effect also reached out to the film family that was part of the COVID-19 support for film and TV production. When she shared my story, the overwhelming response that we received was extremely positive. So the film family in effect then decided to open their hearts. They started contributing with advice, resources, finances. I received groceries. They started to collect clothing for me because at that stage the clothes that I had was worn basically through. So they really launched a Let's Give Tristan a Helping Hand campaign, and the overwhelming response that I received from the film family was one of caring, love and support. And because of that, I was able to find an alternative accommodation for solution for accommodation. And then from there, my life picked up speed again. In realizing that it only takes one person to say yes and make a difference, the thought came up in my heart that why don't you start an NPO facilitating human upliftment projects, seeing as you know how much it's needed. You have been through it yourself. You needed upliftment and not many people were willing to help you get up. So those that did decide to help me get up contributed to me saying, but I can do this as well. I started writing a theatre production called White, which main theme is basically about forgiveness and the effect that forgiveness can have on society, on people and on the individuals. So in doing this, we also realized that there is an immense need out there for a safe space for women and children and members of the LGBTI community affected by trauma and gender-based violence. Myself, being a member of the LGBTI+ community, knows how it feels to be hurt by people. I know how it feels to be rejected by people. I know how it feels to be hit by people. So because of that experience, I can honestly relate to what other people in similar situations are going through, and I can in effect make a difference by reaching out and saying, I might not have all the answers, but at least we know a few people that can possibly assist. I don't think that if COVID didn't happen that I'd be in the position that I am now because of the following reasons. I was doing very well in the film industry. I got known in the film industry. I was happy doing what I was doing at that point, but it didn't necessarily mean that I made a positive difference to society. So although I enjoy it as part of my career curve, it didn't really bring that much personal fulfillment on an emotional and a psychological level. I have to say that if positive change could take place within me and bring about positive change around me, it can happen for anybody. My partners and myself have really lost a lot because of the pandemic, but we are of the good hope that together we can make a difference. We can still laugh, we can still see the good in life, and we know that there are people out there that care. So do not give up, do not surrender. If the world says let it go and give up, say Let's try it one more time.